The movie opens on open water at night, and already something is very wrong. A merchant ship is being boarded, and the man doing the boarding is not the kind of person you negotiate with. His name is Francisco Connor, and he is terrifying in that calm, slow way where you can tell he has done this so many times that violence stopped being personal for him a long time ago. He grabs one of the crew members and holds up a piece of gold, and you can see the marking on it, and he is not asking nicely. He wants to know how a lowly merchant captain ended up with gold that carries his mark and who gave it to them. When he finds out the ship is from a small island called Cayman Brac, he doesn't even blink. He tells his men to bring the captain aboard and give no quarter to the rest of the crew. And then he says set sail for Cayman Brac, and that's it. That's all you need to know about who Connor is. He will slaughter a boat full of people just to follow a lead, and he will do it without raising his voice. Cut to Cayman Brac, and honestly, if you didn't know what was coming, you would think this was the most peaceful place on earth. It's beautiful, the kind of place that makes you understand why people talk about paradise, and at the center of it is a woman named Ursel, and she is holding everything together the way women always do. When the man of the house is gone, her husband, Captain Th. Boden, has been at sea for 59 days, which is 59 days past when he promised to be back, and their son Isaac is asking questions, and her sister-in-law Lizzie keeps sneaking off to meet some boy, and Ursel is doing it all with this quiet strength that you respect immediately, even before you know the half of who she really is. There's a scene where Isaac is praying that his father comes home in time for his birthday, and Ursel tells him the sea is uncertain, and that line hits different when you think about what she must know about the sea from her own past. And speaking of things Ursel knows, there is a young woman named Lizzie who is sneaking around at night meeting a guy called Weston who wants her to leave the island with him. And you can see Ursel clocking all of this and saying nothing yet, because she is the kind of woman who picks her moments, and right now her moment hasn't come, but it's coming. Then the morning hits and Connor arrives, and I want you to understand, this man doesn't send a warning letter. He doesn't negotiate from a distance. He rows straight into the harbor in broad daylight with a full crew of armed men, and the island's protector, the custode, walks up and tries to talk to him like a reasonable official, and Connor listens just long enough to be polite, and then his men open fire, and just like that the custode is dead in the street, and the entire island erupts into chaos. People are running. Connor's men are kicking in doors, dragging people out of their homes, stealing everything they can find, and beating anyone who gets in the way. And the whole time Connor is walking through it all like he's on a Sunday stroll, because what he actually wants is one specific person. He wants the wife of Th. Boden, and he wants her alive. And this is where the movie snaps into a completely different gear, because Ursel hears the commotion. She grabs Isaac, and she doesn't panic, she doesn't freeze, she moves. And the moment Connor's men catch up to her is the moment the audience realizes that this quiet island wife is absolutely not what she appears to be. She fights these men with her bare hands, and she is vicious and precise and terrifying, and you are sitting there going, wait, who is this woman? Because no ordinary person moves like that. One of the men reports back to Connor and says one woman could not have done all this, and Connor smiles, and you realize he already knows exactly who she is. And that is the first time the movie truly has you. While Ursel is getting Isaac and Lizzie out through the bush paths, she finds Lizzie already hiding and has to tell her that Weston is dead. And I'm not going to lie, that moment hurts, because Lizzie was about to get her whole future, and it got taken in an instant, and Ursel just holds her for a second, and then says we can't go home, and pulls her forward, because grief is a luxury they cannot afford right now, and that is one of the most human things about this film. It understands that survival doesn't give you time to fall apart. They end up hidden in a cave system inside the bluff itself, and it's here that Ursel finally tells the truth. And you need to understand something about this reveal, because it changes everything you've watched up to this point. She didn't grow up on Cayman Brac. She wasn't always Ursel. She was taken at 12 years old when Connor's crew attacked her parents' ship and murdered her parents in front of her, and she was dragged onto a pirate ship as a servant, and what she did to survive that you can only imagine. But what she became is this: she built herself into something so dangerous that the seas knew her name, and that name was Bloody Mary. She sailed alongside Connor. She was his partner in every sense of the word, and eventually, she stole his gold, stabbed him between the ribs, and disappeared, and built a new life on the one island small enough that nobody would think to look for her. She changed her name, she married a good man, she had a son, and for years, she actually got to live in sitting In that cave, hearing all of this, you realize that everything Ursel has she built on top of a past that would have broken most people, and that is something worth respecting deeply. But Connor has had years to look for her, and now he has her husband on his ship as a hostage, and he sends word that he will trade the man's life for Ursel and the gold at dusk, and Ursel knows this is a trap. She knows Connor doesn't make fair trades. He never has, but is her husband and the father of her son, and what choice does she really have? The meeting happens, and it goes exactly as wrong as you knew it would. The gold gets handed over, and Connor starts talking about her betrayal all those years ago. And you can tell he has been rehearsing this speech for a decade. He is a man who kept a wound open on purpose because the rage gave him something to chase. And then he threatens Isaac, her disabled son, and that is the last thing he should have said, because in that moment Ursel stops negotiating and ends up stabbed, and there's a scene where she is holding him, and he is calling her mon trésor, which means my treasure in French, and then he's gone, and the way she goes still in that moment is one of the best pieces of acting in this film, because it's not sobbing, it's not screaming, it's something colder and more dangerous than either of those things. What follows is Ursel deciding that she is done surviving and she is going to finish this, and she knows the Bluff better than anyone because she built that cave system herself years ago as a stronghold exactly for a moment like this one. She sends Isaac and Lizzie to prepare the catboat just in case, and then she looks at them and says, "Tonight you become soldiers," and the way she says it is quiet and final, and then she lays out the plan: lure them in, split them up, wait for a clear shot at Connor, distract, defend, destroy, and then the line that should be the trailer line: "They came looking for Bloody Mary, and bloody is what they're going to get." And then the Bluff sequence happens, and I cannot stress to you enough how well this is executed because Ursel uses every tunnel, every choke point, every shadow she built into that cave. She picks off Connor's men one by one in the dark, and you barely see her before she's already gone, and the men are getting more and more scared because they're trained killers, and she is hunting them like they are nothing, and there's something deeply satisfying about watching a woman who has been running for 20 years finally decide to stop running. Connor, meanwhile, is trying to hold his crew together, but his quartermaster has had enough. He watched men die for what he calls Connor's sick obsession with one woman, and he tries to end the campaign and call a vote, and Connor listens to the whole speech and then just shoots him because that is who Connor is. He doesn't do democracy, and he gives the remaining crew a speech about pardons and freedom and the golden age of piracy, and honestly, if he weren't a murderer, you might almost find him compelling in a terrible way. But here is the thing about Ursel: even when she does everything right, the night nearly breaks her. Is gone. Pastor Bradley, who came with her and helped her, dies too. One by one, the people around her keep paying the price, and you start to feel it building, the weight of being the one person who has to survive no matter what. And there's a moment when Lizzie finds her and says, "You don't have to do everything yourself," and even Isaac echoes it, and Ursel looks at them both, and you can see her recalibrating because she has spent so long being Bloody Mary alone that she almost forgot she has people now, and they will stand with her. It comes down to Connor and Ursel alone in the dark on the Bluff, and he calls her out into the light to settle it like buccaneers to death or yield, and they fight, and it is brutal and real, and neither of them is holding anything back. And when she finally gets him down and drives a blade between his ribs exactly where she once missed, she does it quietly and completely, and he is gone. And it is not triumphant, it is exhausted and final and true. As dawn breaks, Isaac gets to the signal pyre and lights it, and the smoke rises, and the British Navy is coming, and what's left of Connor's crew sees the end, and there's nothing left to fight for, and Ursel is standing on the Bluff, battered and breathing and alive, and Lizzie finds her and holds her and calls her sister, and in the last moments of the film you hear it for the first time, the name she buried 20 years ago on a ship in the middle of the ocean when she was 12 years old and terrified and trying to become someone hard enough to survive. My name is Miriam. And that's it, that's the whole thing, and I'll be honest with you, this movie hit me harder than I expected it to because it's not really about pirates or gold or revenge. Even though it has all of those things, it's about what it costs a person to survive something terrible and whether you ever get to stop paying that price. And the answer this movie gives is maybe not entirely, but you can build something real anyway. You can find a good man and a beautiful island and a son who prays for you to come home, and that is worth fighting for, even when fighting means becoming the thing you tried to leave behind. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a recap.